So we're gonna start on a seat on your mat today. So wherever you're at, just find your space, and I've got some stuff to the side over here if you have something like yoga blocks or very thick books that you like to use, or a bolster. I have a very large pillow instead of a bolster. Those things can be helpful if it's something, especially if it's something you're used to using during your practice. All right, we're gonna go ahead and start in a seat today. And again, welcome everybody. My name is Kera Krause. I know most of you. Today's flow is going to be loosely based around your shoulders and your throat chakra, releasing some tension in those areas. It's a really common area to hold your tension. So we're going to work on that today. Go ahead and come to your seat on your mat. You can be cross-legged if you feel a little more comfortable with some space between your legs, or like even stretching your legs out. You could also even grab a block, and like if you want your hips up higher, you can sit up on your block and then have your legs a little more comfortable. That gives like definitely more space for the hips. We're going to be seated here for a minute to start with some meditation and breathing today. Become aware of the spaces that your breath is entering. And don't necessarily try to change it or do anything differently. Just start to breathe. Go ahead and continue to breathe into all of those spaces. See if you can sit up a little taller as you breathe in. And if you'd like today, a nice place to bring your hands to your knees and bring your thumb and middle finger together. And then you can just breathe there, breathing into the spaces and feeling the connection between your fingers. Feeling that your fingers run all the way up to your heart, carrying the oxygen in your blood. And I want to start today with something called the ocean breath, and a short, very short story as we all start to connect with our breath here. If you aren't familiar with ocean breath, Ujjayi breath, you're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, and you can modify that as needed. You know, it's allergy season here in Austin, so breathing in through the nose is a tricky thing. But the point is to let your breath mimic the ocean. As the waves come in, your breath comes in. And as the tide goes out, your breath moves out nice and slow, matching the pace of your breath in. And if you want to let your eyes get heavy, even drift closed, if you feel good about that, you can do that. So we're breathing in here, and we're just taking note of all the spaces. And as you begin to take note of those spaces, I just want to tell a short little story that I found really interesting. You connect your breath. Sure, we're all familiar with the idea of the god Shiva from Buddhism, Indian mysticism, all of those things. One of the things that Shiva is most known for is being the great purifier. And there's a really interesting story about the gods and goddesses going and trying to unearth this nectar that would give them immortality. And as they were trying to unearth the nectar, all of their things came spilling out, animals and plants and lots of things. It's a bit of a creation story. But during this process, a terrible poison started to come out, and it started to destroy the universe. And the gods and goddesses didn't know what to do.
And so they called the god Shiva, and they asked him to come and help as this terrible poison was moving throughout the universe. And so the god Shiva came, and he took the poison into his mouth, and he held it in his throat. And as he held the poison in his throat, he used his breath to breathe slowly and purify the poison. And in doing this, he was able to save the universe from ultimate destruction. And also, it turned his throat blue. So this is essentially the origin story of your throat chakra being the color blue. So maybe you can think about that color a little bit today. Imagine it as you take your deep breaths in. Imagine that you're doing your own purification of sorts. Whatever is necessary. The throat chakra is our center of communication. And it rules how we speak, but not only how we speak, how we listen, how we choose to speak, and when we choose to speak, when we choose to listen. So wherever you're at, let's go ahead and take one last deep breath in together. And breathe out. That purifying breath. We're going to go ahead and start to bring a little movement in. You can stay in your seat. If you're sitting with your legs crossed, at this point, you may feel like maybe uncrossing your legs or crossing them the other way or extending them. If you need to get a little blood flow, maybe you can bring your feet to the ground, keep your knees bent. And so here, wherever you're at, we're going to start to bring some movement into the neck and shoulders. And as we do this, maybe just kind of wiggling side to side, waking up your shoulders. Think about your own ability to speak, your own ability to listen. And listen in with yourself maybe today. What do you have to say to yourself? Go ahead and breathe in and let the shoulders come up towards the ears, exhaling the shoulders back down your spine, sitting up tall as we breathe in again. Find some length in the spine. And then we're going to go ahead and just start to do some gentle neck rotations. So you can bring your right ear towards your right shoulder. Breathing in, letting your head roll forward slowly with your breath. All the way forward and over until your left ear comes towards your left shoulder. There's no need to try to bring them to touch. Just letting the neck drop, letting the shoulders stay dropping down the back. Breathing in. Maybe coming back down towards the middle, going back the other way. You can start to do this at the pace of your own breath. Breathing in as your ear meets your shoulder. Breathing out as your head relaxes down. And then in again as you find your other shoulder. As you do this, be sure to keep your sit bones really grounded into the ground. And start to maybe wake up the muscles in the core of your body to bring support to the upper body as we sit up tall. And start to stretch out the neck. Good, and then maybe let's do some shoulder rolls. Keep breathing in as you roll your shoulders forward, up towards your ears and back towards down your spine. And breathing in, then switching opposite direction, rolling the shoulders forward and then up. Really small, gentle movements, whatever feels good here. And then let those shoulders come back down, relaxing down towards the spine. You always want to try and keep your shoulders dropping down and away from the ears. Anytime we start to curl our shoulders too high up towards our ears, that's a sign of tension, a sign of stress. And you want to just take a deep breath and then breathe that stress out and release your shoulders. And then wherever you're at, let's go ahead and take a deep breath and reach your hands up towards the sky. Imagine maybe you're holding a big beach ball between your hands. And that's going to keep some space between your shoulders. You might feel like your shoulder blades are coming towards each other in the middle of your back a little bit. Keep breathing in, finding length in your spine as you breathe in. Maybe a little strength in the core as you breathe out and tuck those low ribs in. And let's bring your right hand down towards your mat. If you do have blocks and you want to use those, you can bring your hand to a block, or you can bring your hand down to the mat. Spread your fingers nice and wide. And we're going to really ground through that hand, ground through your sit bones, maybe even through your feet and your legs, wherever your sitting position is at. Let's reach that other hand up as we ground through the right hand. We're just going to gently lean towards the right side, keeping that stretch up in your left palm, so we're still getting a lot of extension in the left side body, and grounding down through the fingers and the palm of the right hand. Let's breathe in deep as you extend here. Just feeling into that area of the body. What does it feel like to breathe into the left side of your body here? And breathing out. Let's come back to center and take another deep breath in and bring both hands up towards the sky. And then opposite side, just slowly, gently bring that left hand down towards the ground. And then we're going to reach the right hand up and over the body, up towards the sky, over the head, breathing in. Feel your breath reaching down into your low ribs. And then the low ribs tucking in as you breathe out to support the core. Reaching up and over. The pinky wraps down towards the ground. Let's breathe in and come back up to center. Reaching up tall with both hands. And let's go back to the other side. Right hand comes to the mat. Breathing into the low ribs. Left hand pinky wraps towards the ground and the left hand reaches up towards the sky and over. And breathing out. And in as we extend, maybe feel if there's a little difference. If you feel like this second time on the side, maybe you can get a little more of a stretch. Keep your right elbow nice and bent and relaxed. That right hand is just grounding you into the ground. And let's come back up, hands to center, breathing in deep. Sitting up tall as you feel that length you're creating in your spine. And one more time on the other side. I'm going to bring that left hand to the ground. And extend, reach up towards the sky. And over. See if maybe you can get your breath just a little deeper this time. Bending your left elbow, relaxing your neck. Still grounding into the ground with your hips and your sit bones, your legs. Let's reach up tall towards the sky. Do a quick cactus arm. So you're going to bring both your elbows to a 90 degree as you exhale. Spread the fingertips, active palms, active fingertips. Breathing in, sitting up tall, grounding through those sit bones, thigh bones, hip bones. Extending your neck and your spine. And relax the arms down to the ground. Maybe shake your shoulders out. Slowly rotate that neck again if you feel like that might be nice. And then just a couple more seated positions here. If you want, you can extend the legs for a second and stretch towards your toes. Get that blood flowing back in your knees. Breathing in deep into your core. Although we're working on your throat chakra and your neck and your shoulders today, the core and the breathing is called the core for a reason. It's the core of every movement, every breath, every sound, everything we do in life. So really connect to your breathing today and let it bring some softness into your throat, your lower jaw. Maybe stretching, doing some small circles with the lower jaw. And just starting to become aware of what do you feel in that area? Just becoming aware. And we're going to go ahead and come back to whatever your seated position is. If you want to keep your legs extended in this position, that's totally fine. We're just going to do some nice forward folds, small circles with the upper body. So first, let's come up, sit up tall, grounding into the ground here. You can bring your hands to your hips, sit up tall. And let's just lean forward slowly wherever your seat is at. Maybe you switch legs if you're crossing your legs. Just lean forward over your legs. And start to make small circles with your body. Moving from one side, coming up slowly. Maybe breathing in deep as we lower and make your circle. Breathing out as you come up. Make these circles as big or small as you feel good about. Maybe switch direction. Maybe you want to reach your palms forward when you make your circle. Get some relaxation in those shoulders. On this next inhale, let's all come up to our seat one more time. And let's go ahead and bring your hands back to your hips. And just sit up tall. Notice the space in your spine here. And then we're going to do just a couple of seated cat-cows. So if you're familiar with that motion, go at it at your own pace with your breath. If not, let's bring your hands to your knees. You can have your palms down, loosely relaxing on your knees or just right on the tops of your thighs. Just going to begin to sync up your motion with your breath a little bit. So as you breathe in, let's go ahead and arch the back just a little. Let the belly come forward. And as you breathe out, arch your back the other way. This is your cat pose. Cow pose, letting the belly drop forward. Leaning forward with the upper body a little maybe. And curling the spine like a cat. Exhale. Breathing in. As your cow pose, lean forward and belly drop. Take that at your own pace, matching your lean forward with your inhale, letting gravity bring your belly forward. Keeping your shoulders dropping away from your ears. And exhaling as your spine curls the other way. like a cat stretching out its back. Breathe into that space in your shoulders. Relax your shoulders, relax your neck. And then on your next inhale, let's meet together again in the seat. Taking some deep breaths. Just noticing how your shoulders feel after that little bit of paying attention to them. Our reality is so focused on what we put our focus on. Your world will mirror where you're looking. So today, let's look inward and see what your body wants you to do. See what feels good. See what your body has to say. Communication in your throat chakra. Not only communicating with other people, but also communicating with ourselves. So as we move through these next few poses, be sure to listen into your body as to what feels good and when you should move deeper and when maybe you should just let the pose settle in a bit. We're going to come up onto the hands and knees here. Start to bring a little more motion. Basically, we're going to do the same thing, our cat-cows, again now on hands and knees. So we're going to come to your tabletop position. Varmanasana position. And in this position, you should have your hands right under your shoulders, your knees under your hips, and you should be pressing the balls of your hands and your toes into the ground to stabilize all of your joints. Bring your awareness back to your core. Neutral spine here. Just take some deep breaths. And if you don't want to spend too much time on your wrist today, you're welcome to sit back up on your knees and just do your cat-cows here. Wherever you are, we're going to do that same motion, just letting your belly drop as you inhale. And gravity will help you pull that air into your lower belly, and then exhale, tucking the low ribs in towards the spine. This is where your diaphragm is and your low ribs. Fill that bag of your diaphragm up. Maybe feeling the air reach all the way down to your belly button as you arch your back and exhale. And then on this next pose, breath in, let's come down all the way to the ground. So you can extend both legs and slowly lower, or you can just lower from your knees onto the ground. If you want to go to a plank and do like a chaturanga, half plank, slow lower to the ground, you can do that as well. Going to meet here on the ground, pressing your tops of your feet into the mat, pressing your hands into the mat on either side of your ribs. And breathing in and exhaling. And then just gently come up with just your shoulders, top of your chest, and your head off the mat. Keep pressing your hips, your lower ribs, and the tops of your feet, maybe the tops of your thighs into the mat. Just lifting your shoulders off of the mat. Remember to keep the shoulders pulling down away from the ears. Stay connected with the breath. You can feel your breath lifting you gently up from the mat and releasing as you just lower slightly. Breathing in. Let's lower back towards the mat as you exhale. And then inhale one more time, cobra pose. Elbows pulling back, shoulders pulling down, tops of the feet press into the mat. Big inhale. And exhale, come back down to the mat. From here, we're going to press up into a plank pose just for a second. So go ahead and curl your toes back under. Come up to your version of plank. You can keep your knees on the ground or lift up onto the tips of the toes and the palms of the hands. Stabilizing from the core. Just for a second, take a deep breath in here. And then let the knees come back to the ground. We're going to head into puppy pose. So we'll bring your palms of the hands and your forearms down to the mat in front of you, reaching towards your front of the mat. Maybe parallel to the edges of the mat, so your fingers are reaching forward and your arms are nice and parallel. The hips reach up and back. The knees and toes stay on the mat. Forehead comes down. Really nice option if you have blocks here is to bring your blocks in front of you. Maybe bring your forehead to the block or bring your palms of the hands to the blocks. Get some support for those shoulders. Whatever you want to do, just stretching forward into this puppy pose. Take a few deep breaths here, just feeling that belly drop with your inhale. Gravity can be such a helpful tool in helping us breathe. And then as we exhale, let's come back up onto the hands and knees and just kind of move through this position slowly. See if we can come all the way up onto your knees. Now, a couple options here. If you have a blanket nearby, you can get a blanket, roll it up, put that under your knees. If you have a nice pillow for your knees, you can do that. Or you can take your mat and just fold it a little bit over itself and put your knees right there. Just to protect those kneecaps and everything a little bit. So we'll come up onto your knees to this kneeling position. Starting to just slowly get taller up off the mat. Take a deep breath in. Let's reach your hands up. And just press the tops of the feet into your mat here. Lengthen the front of your body so that you're not collapsing inwards. So you're lifting your ribs and your chest, all getting some space for your breath. Inhaling and exhaling here a few times. Let's exhale together and bring your hands down. Let's bring the palms to meet behind your back. And as the palms meet behind your back, we're going to go ahead and just slightly arch your spine, get a little bit of a back bend here. All right, and as we're just getting a little bit of a stretch and a back bend here, keep those palms. Maybe your palms actually meet, maybe there's some space and it's just nice and open between those palms. Just stretching that back, stretching the front of your chest and the shoulders, palms hanging heavy. And then let's go ahead and inhale and reach the arms up. And we'll bring the hands down, back down to the earth. Palms pressing into the mat. Fingers spread wide so you can press each of those knuckles into your mat and support your wrists. But keep your elbows bent. And if you do have your mat folded or if you have a blanket here, you may want to just readjust that real quick. And we'll go ahead and come back to our tabletop for a second. We're going to press up into a quick downward dog just to transition into our standing sequence. So we'll press into the mat with your hands, breathe into your lower belly. Then go ahead and exhale, lift the knees up, send the hips up and back. Let the heels become heavy. There's no need for the heels to meet the ground. Make sure your shoulders in a comfortable position here. Again, listening in to what your body has to say to you. The shoulders are relaxed, hands supporting here, and then we're going to reach the right foot up and back for just 1 second. Big stretch in our three-legged dog, and then bring the knee forward towards the nose and step your foot between your hands. We're going to come up into a warrior one or a crescent pose, high crescent pose. So you can reach your hands up tall if you want warrior one. You'll keep your back leg at about a 45-degree angle, and the heel will drop to the mat. If you want to go in for the high lunge, you can. Keep your heel lifted and both of your toes pointed towards the front of the mat. Either way, your front knee should be at about a 90-degree angle. Both feet nice and firm, pressing into the mat, and still lots of length in your spine. Let's just find some stillness, find some balance here wherever your feet are. Maybe bring your hands to your hips. Bring your hands to the center of your chest if you like, palms together. Then we're just going to go through a nice gentle warrior flow here. Get a little more of a stretch in those shoulders. So let's all together meet in a high lunge. Both toes meet, point towards the front of the mat. Reach the hands up. Breathing into the low belly. And let the hands come back together behind your back, just like we did earlier. Making a loose fist behind your back, letting that be heavy. Try and keep both hips rotating towards the front of the mat, and we're just going to gently lean forward from the hips. If you need to get more or less space between your feet to feel stable here, you can bring the feet closer together, or you can bring them a little further apart. You can just lean forward here from the hips, and just feel that nice pulling back in your shoulders. If you want a little more, you can let your palms, knuckles reach towards the sky. Stretch those shoulders up and back. Press the feet into the ground. Engage the thighs. And then slowly we'll breathe in and come back up to standing. You can release your hands. Reach up towards the sky. Soft bend in the right knee. We're going to again fold forward, this time coming all the way down. If you want to bring your blocks, you can get your blocks on either side of your foot here if you'd like to help you come down, or you can bring your hands to the mat. Maybe stretch that back leg a little bit longer. Front leg at a 90-degree angle for a runner's lunge. And then let's go ahead and plant both palms onto the mat. We're going to step your right foot back. And then with your left knee, drop to the mat. And go ahead and turn that left knee open towards maybe your back a little bit. You can bring your left palm more in line with the left knee. So we're kind of opening up towards your right side here. I'm just going to reach the right hand towards the sky. So again, your right back leg is grounded with your toes into the mat, maybe the whole side of your foot pressing into the mat. Your left leg is bent, turning towards the back of your mat, and your right hand is reaching up towards the sky, reaching up and over, pressing into the mat with that front hand. An option here, if you'd like, is to reach that right hand straight up towards the sky, really ground in through your leg and your hand and your knee, and then lift the back leg up off the ground for half moon on the ground. Or this is plenty of a stretch here to just reach forward Feel that stretch in your side body. This is an area of the shoulders we don't think about often, the back of the shoulders. Keep coming back to your breath as we slowly turn. Come back to the center. Rotate that back leg back. And the knee back. Let's go ahead and return to our plank pose. And then we're going to drop our knees, send it back for a child's pose. So in child's pose, your hips come back towards your heels. The feet can relax. Your hands can relax. If you want, you can get a little more space between your knees. Bring the knees to both sides of the mat and just relax here. Also a good option is to roll the wrists out here slowly. Maybe one direction and then the other. Just take some deep breaths here in child's pose. Get a little bit of a rest after that standing sequence before we move back to the other side. At any point, you're welcome to return to this child's pose, to a tabletop, or wherever is a good resting pose for you. And find your breath. Listen to your body. Just some gentle breaths here as we relax. Maybe let the heart rate come down if it were accelerated at all. And then just nice and slowly, we're going to come back to our tabletop position. And remember our cat-cows from earlier. Let's see how those feel now. So you can curl your toes into the mat. You can press your fingers into the mat. Just let your belly drop. Remember, if you want, you can just sit back up on the knees or even sit in your cross-legged or legs extended position. Get your cat-cows here. What we really want is this flexion in your shoulders and then extension in the spine as we curl the spine open. Breathing in as you drop the belly. And exhaling as we tuck the belly, tuck the low ribs, press away from your mat. Inhale, 2 more breaths here. Maybe finding a little more space between your shoulder blades to come apart. Exhale, last breath, breathe in. Belly drops. Exhale, and let's extend your feet if you want a plank, or just go ahead and lower from the knees all the way to the ground. We're going to meet back on our bellies. Come up for just one quick Sphinx pose we did earlier. So you're pressing the tops of your feet, lower body, hips, and the hands into the mat, and just gently lifting the shoulders. Breathing into the belly. Belly lifts you up. And lower back down. Return to our plank position and then press the hips up and back for our downward dog. To transition to that standing sequence on the left side. So just pressing your hands into the ground here. Let's lift the left leg up and back towards the sky. Then bring that knee towards the nose. Step your foot between your hands. And we're coming up with the hands grounding through the feet in Warrior One or High Lunge. And just lift your hands up towards the sky here. Get some balance. Feel what it feels like to press up off the ground and to let your shoulders drop away from the sky. Maybe lengthening the back of your neck so you're just a little taller. And let your hands drop. This time let's cross your opposite thumb. So whichever way you had your fist made with your palms last time. You can cross the opposite thumb this time. Grounding through the feet, rotating the hips towards your front of the mat. So you're trying to keep the hips as square as you can, as that feels good. And then let's just take a deep breath in. Exhale and bend forward, hinging at the waist so that your belly comes towards your front leg stays 90 degrees. Just breathe here for a second. If you'd like, you can let your gaze come down to the ground. And one more option if you want to lift your hands up towards the sky. Again, listening into your body. What does it want you to do here? And let's press up with those strong feet all the way to standing again. Bring the hands up to the sky. Big breath in. Feel the space between your shoulders. And exhaling, let's come all the way back down. Hands come towards the mat. Fingertips on the mat or on your blocks here for a little bit of a low lunge as we transition back into that nice side stretch on the other side. So we can go ahead and bring the hands down to the mat, grounding through the palms, grounding through the fingertips, taking a weight off your wrist. Bring your left leg back to meet your right, neutral spine. This time dropping the right knee to the mat. And then just turning that right knee slightly out to the side. Right hand stays in line with the knee, so if that means you need to move it a little bit more over towards the center of the mat, do that. Left leg is going to sweep over to be in line with those, and then the left hand comes across your body, reaching all the way up to the sky, and then extending forward towards the front of the mat maybe. Really pressing into the top of your right foot, pressing into the back foot, and pressing into the palm of your right hand. Bring your attention back to your core for a second. Extend your neck so the back of your neck is nice and long and not curling back or curling forward. And then if you'd like, lift that back leg, half moon pose on the ground. Or you can remain here and just get that nice stretch in the front hips and the back shoulder. And then slowly breathing, let's come back to the center, rotating the right knee so that the foot comes to face the same direction as the other foot. Come to your tabletop position, and then we're just going to gently press your hips back and return to our child's pose for some more rest. After that, and as you take your deep breaths in, maybe find a little more extension in the shoulders. If you want, you can press your hands into the mat and lift your elbows off the mat, or you can let your elbows be on the mat. It's a little bit of a different feeling with the elbows lifted, maybe a little more frontal extension, feeling the backs of the shoulders kind of lifting off of your spine. If you let the elbows drop, it's nice and relaxing for the shoulders. Whatever feels good for you here, just staying with your breath, breathing in and breathing out. Maybe you can rotate your wrists again here, one way and then the other. Just starting to take some deep breaths and let that stretch sink in from our standing sequence. We're going to move into the last couple of movements of our sequence today. Let's go ahead and come up from your tabletop position to into your tabletop position from child's pose for our last child's pose. And then we're gonna ground through your left hand, both knees on the ground here. Maybe you can spread your knees a little wider if that feels good for you. Take a deep breath in and grounding through the left hand, let's reach the right hand up towards the sky, opening to the right side, and then bring that right arm down. You're going to thread the needle. Right arm goes through the left and underneath till your shoulder comes all the way down to the mat. And your right ear comes down to the mat. So your left hand will stay just grounding you, giving you a little bit of balance, pressing into the mat. Feel that shoulder relaxing, breathing here. Maybe try and breathe into that shoulder that's on the ground and feel what's going on there. Breathe in and out. And then let's come back up. Slowly moving to the other side. So your right palm is going to come back down to the mat. Left palm opens up. Just opening your chest towards the sky for a second. Reaching that palm up. And then coming back down. And threading your left arm now under the right arm. Shoulder comes to the mat. And the right hand stays pressing into your mat. Remember to breathe into your low belly here. Breathing into your shoulder. Breathing into your right hip. And take a deep breath. Let's come back up. Tabletop. And then we're going to just come back to our puppy pose one last time. So puppy pose is your feet pressing into the mat, hips come back, and your forearms come down. Lots of extension in the shoulders here. Make sure your neck stays long. Forehead can press into the mat, or if you prefer to grab a blanket, a block, a pillow for your forehead to rest on, you can do that. Make sure your spine stays neutral and comfortable here. So breathe into your belly to keep that spine supported. And then as we continue to breathe, go ahead and come down to the mat. We're going to flip over onto your back. Bring your knees up high and your feet down to the mat. So your knees are bent, feet on the mat, and let's go ahead and lay the back all the way down to the ground. Finishing out our sequence today with some nice supported stretching on the ground. Let's go ahead and just real quick squeeze your knees into your chest. Maybe you lace the fingers over the legs and hug those knees into your chest. Breathing in and out. And continuing with the breath, breathing in. Let's go ahead and make some circles with your knees, light circles. And maybe going the other way with your circles. And then for this very last pose, if you have a bolster or a pillow or a block, this is a great time to use that. I'm going to move into a supported bridge pose. So if you're familiar with bridge pose, it's just pressing your hands into the mat, lifting the hips up and off, getting a little stretch in the shoulders and the spine. Today what we want to try to do is get some support for your spine as you do that. So if you have a big pillow or a bolster, go ahead and set that underneath you. Keep your feet on the mat and bring that to where just your shoulders are still on the ground and that bolster pillow is supporting you. You can do the same with the block. If you have blocks, and this is nice because you have a couple heights with the blocks, so you can have just under your sacrum, lifting your hips up off the ground, keeping your shoulders off the ground. Just breathing in deep. You can keep your hands on the mat, or if you want to bring your hands to your belly or to your chest to connect with your breath a bit, that's a great idea as well. Just breathing here, letting that block or bolster support your spine. You're welcome to just keep lying on the mat if that's what feels good in your body today. And wherever you're at, let's go ahead and take a deep breath in. Lift the hips one last time, nice and high. Press the hands into the ground. Exhale and remove your block or bolster, whatever you got. Coming down to the mat. Extend your arms. You can extend the arms just directly to the sides for pentacle pose, or a little up higher. And with your legs, just find what feels good. You can let your legs hang heavy all the way down to the ground. Coming into our final resting pose, Shavasana. One thing I really like to do in Shavasana is to bring my pillow or my bolster underneath my legs here. And then to just relax and let my knees rest on that bolster. Whatever feels good for you, find your final resting pose today. We're going to take it out with some breathing and mantra. We'll keep your breath going here, breathing in deep. And as you rest in your Shavasana, your constructive rest pose, wherever you're at, come back to that thought of listening to yourself, listening to others, listening to your body. In communication, I think it's important to remember the idea of discernment. We all have our own story of learning to use our voice, learning to speak our truth. And that's so important for living a fulfilled, free, comfortable life where you feel like you are being your authentic self. It's so important to learn to speak to your truth, and it is equally important to learn when to listen, to learn when to quiet your mind, quiet your thoughts, and discern what's going on within and around you. Your throat chakra is all about finding that balance, listening versus speaking. We're going to keep the bowls a little bit light today and focus mostly on the power of the voice for our sound as we end our practice. The voice is such a powerful tool for healing, for self-expression, for creativity. You can literally enact your own ideas, thoughts, and creations upon the air around you. As you speak your thoughts, into the air. So as you finish your practice today, just keep your breathing nice and relaxed. Maybe coming back to your ocean breath. It's amazing how often the sounds of our music, our bodies, our voices mimic nature. The ocean is one way to do that. The Ujjayi breath. Let's take a deep breath in. Soham. 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 Om Shivaya Namaha. Om Shivaya Namaha. Om Shivaya Namaha. Om. As we bring your practice to a close today, come back to your breathing. If you're still lying down, if you'd like to maybe start to wake up your body, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and just listen into your body and how does it feel right now. The last couple of things that I used in the chanting were Soham, which means I am. I am here. I am me. I exist. I am comfortable within me. Soham, just the simple state of existing as you are. It's a very powerful mantra. The second one was Om Shivaya Namaha, the mantra to Shiva, the god that we spoke about earlier in purifying the breath. It's an interesting mantra if you want to bring a little bit of peace and calm into yourself. Just to give thanks to the energy that brings up within you, to the feelings that brings up within you. It's a really interesting mantra if you want to look a little bit deeper into it. It signifies, it's a 5-syllable mantra with several syllables that represent things like pride and selfishness in the world, worldly things, and then Shiva, which represents, our connection to the universe and oneness, and Ya, which represents us and our soul. So you're asking Shiva to help you remove the impurities of pride and selfishness, asking the universal energy to come in and help you with removing those impurities by the power of your own breath and the breath of the universe. So as you leave your practice today, out of respect for your time, I think we just ended our hour a couple of minutes ago. So if you do need to go, feel free to go. But just as our last couple of minutes together, let's all just take a deep breath. Come back to that idea of communication, communicating with the world around you and the world within you, using your discernment to decide when to speak and how to speak, and to always decide when you need to be heard and when you need to listen. Breathing in, maybe you can imagine some blue light coming in around your throat. And then breathing out. And I want to thank you for sticking around and practicing with me today. I hope you feel some connection with yourself and understanding of your own ability to speak out into the world. Go ahead and take one more breath in and out. Thank you for coming. Namaste.